Hey guys, Abner Miranda here. Today I'm working on slings. Just got back from a trip from Ohio yesterday. Today is Tuesday, January 5th, 2021. Right now the elections are going on in Georgia for the Senate runoffs. And as I do when I'm working on slings, I try to put something on in the background that I can listen to just kind of help pass the time and help me to focus on the detail work that I have to do in making the slings. And today I chose, or at least for this portion of what I'm doing, I chose a speech by General Washington, his farewell speech to Congress in 1796. And I am roughly halfway through it, and I realized if you didn't know any better, you would think you were listening to a speech that was written today. In fact, my daughter's sitting right over there, and she said, "Dad, I thought you were listening to a modern speech." Guys, listen to just this excerpt from it.
Till changed by an explicit and authentic act of the whole people is sacredly upon all. The very idea of the power and the right of the people to establish government presupposes the duty of every individual to obey the established government. All obstructions to the execution of the laws, all combinations and associations, under whatever plausible character, with the real design to direct, control, counteract, or awe the regular deliberation and action of the constituted authorities, are destructive of this fundamental principle and a fatal tendency. They serve to organize faction, to give it an artificial and extraordinary force, to put in the place of the delegated will of the nation the will of a party, often a small but artful and enterprising minority of the community.
You hear that? The will of a party, often a small, basically what he's saying is often a small segment of the society is making policies that everybody else has to follow. Listen, he expounds on this.
According to the alternate triumphs of different parties, to make the public administration the mirror of the ill-concerted and incongruous projects of fashion, rather than the organs of consistent, unwholesome plans, digested by common councils and modified by mutual interests. However combinations or associations of the above description may now and then answer popular ends, they are likely, in the course of time and things, to become potent engines by which cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men will be enabled to subvert the power of the people and to usurp for themselves the reins of government, destroying afterward the very engines which have lifted them to unjust domination.
Catch that? It's exactly where we are right now, guys. It's exactly where we are.
The preservation of your government and the permanency of your present happy state, it is requisite not only that you steadily discountenance irregular oppositions to its acknowledged authority, but also that you resist with care the spirit of innovation upon its principles, however specious the pretexts. One method of assault may be to effect, in the forms of the Constitution, alterations which will impair the energy of the system, and thus to undermine which cannot be directly overthrown. In all the changes to which you may be invited, remember that time and habit are at least as necessary to fix the true character of governments as of other human institutions, that facility in changes, upon the credit of mere hypothesis and opinion, exposes to perpetual change from the endless variety of hypothesis and opinion. And remember especially that for the efficient management of your common interests, in a country so extensive as ours, a government of as much vigor as is consistent with the perfect security of liberty is indispensable. Liberty itself will find in such a government, with powers properly distributed and adjusted, its surest guardian. It is, indeed, little else than the name where the government is too feeble to withstand the enterprises of faction, to confine each member to the society within the limits prescribed by the laws, and to maintain all in the secure and tranquil enjoyment of the rights of person and property. I have already intimated to you the danger of parties in the state, with particular reference to the founding of them on geographical discrimination. Let me now take a more comprehensive view and warn you in the most solemn manner against the baneful effects of the spirit of party generally. This spirit, unfortunately, is inseparable from our nature, having its root in the strongest passions of the human mind. It exists under different shapes in all governments, more or less stifled, controlled, or repressed. But in those of the popular form, it is seen in its greatest rankness and is truly their worst enemy. The alternate domination of one faction over another, sharpened by the spirit of revenge, natural to party dissension, which in different ages and countries has perpetrated the most horrid enormities, is itself a frightful despotism. But this leads at length to a more formal and permanent despotism. The disorders and miseries which result gradually incline the minds of men to seek security and repose in the absolute power of an individual, and sooner or later the chief of some prevailing faction, more able or more fortunate than his competitors, turns this disposition to the purposes of his own elevation on the ruins of public liberty.
There it is.
Without looking forward to an extremity of this kind, which nevertheless ought not to be entirely out of sight. The common and continued mischiefs of the spirit of party are sufficient to make it the interest and duty of a wise people to discourage and restrain it. It serves always to distract the public councils and enfeeble the public administration. It agitates the community with ill-founded jealousies and false alarms, kindles the animosity of one part against another.
You hear that one? False alarms. COVID.
And enfeeble the public administration. It agitates the community with ill-founded jealousies and false alarms, kindles the animosity of one part against another, foments occasionally riot and insurrection. It opens the doors to foreign influence and corruption, which...
You hear that? It opens the door to foreign influence and corruption. Guys, 1796. And he warned that leaning on party opens us to foreign corruption and interference. Remember, guys? 2 months ago, man, that's all good because the governor of Georgia is a Republican, and so is the Secretary of State. They saw us coming, didn't they? 1796. President Washington warned us. The fact of the matter is, we fell asleep at the wheel as a country. And now the only question is, can the Republic be recovered before everything is lost? Guys, we need to be praying for our country. Like I said, today is January 5th, 2021. And right now, the Georgia runoff election for the Senate is happening. And I'll be covering that at length here in a few days. And then tomorrow is the Senate hearing. And if the things that I think are going to happen, it's going to be interesting. God's blessings on all of you. And folks, remember, we need to be praying like we've never prayed before, because the survival of our nation is in the balance right now. Have a good one, guys.